What is up, everybody? How's it going, guys? We're back again with Bryan. Another video about Bryan Kohberger, guys. We actually took some time off away from this, and I'm glad we did. It was much needed. But we are back, guys. Bryan Kohberger, Evidence, Visual of Snow, and Door, Moscow, Idaho. An investigation series, video 4. Now, this is actually done by Crime Circus. Drip Drop is actually his name, what he goes by. So, yes, Drip Drop, I'm deuces. Anyways, guys. But first, love yourself, like yourself, be nothing but yourself. Like, subscribe to the channel is highly appreciated. And anything in this video is actually speculations, guys, until the guy is actually proven. That is crazy, guys. They said it could actually take a while to actually do all this stuff and prove him guilty. You guys, what they actually took from his apartment actually should be enough, that you would think. The computer, you'd think they'd be enough. What did they find? Did they find anything? That's absolutely what I want to know, but nobody's talking. So anyways, let's get right back to the video.
Disclaimer. All words, names, and everything spoken in this video is presumed speculation, guessing, theorizing, and non-factual. Bryan Kohberger is presumed innocent, however the police arrested him because they believe he's guilty, and the state attorney is following through with the charges because they believe he's guilty too. What do you think? Leave me a comment down below. We're just gonna jump right into this video and start it with a boom. Let's check this out.
In the beginning, most of us believed the two surviving roommates, Bethany and Dylan, were sleeping on the first floor. Since then, we've learned Dylan was sleeping here on the second floor, along with Xana and Ethan located here. Kaylee and Madison were located here on the third floor. The dog was located on the third floor, and the room by itself. Let's move around and see through the walls, into the kitchen, to the back slider, and take a look at the time frames. At 4:04 a.m., the suspect can be seen trying to park his car. At 4:09, approximately 5 minutes later, he enters the house through the back slider. At 4:18, he leaves the house after committing the crimes. At 4:20, he's caught on camera driving away at a high rate of speed. All of this only took 9 minutes.
So, I find that very hard to believe, guys. You're actually going to brutally murder, well, brutally stab, for better saying. You're going to brutally stab and murder 4 victims in 9 minutes. So how long did he had to been speed walking, guys? Whenever he entered the back door, he must have been dead ass of what he actually wanted to go do. He must have been the one that actually came in. He's been in this house before. He's had to have. He's stalked these girls. He's had to have, guys. There's no way that a killer's going to enter a home and not know nothing about a home and know exactly where to go. There's just not. That's not how this whole process actually works. This guy studied these girls, studied Instagram, studied YouTube, studied TikTok, because you know one of them actually, well, all of them had TikToks. Every one of them. And then you have one that actually left her location on her social media. She went to sell her car and her location was pinned on. So what did Bryan Kohberger actually have against these girls? Was it hate? Was it because they was popular and he wanted to be that person? They go on to say that Bryan Kohberger was actually overweight and he was picked on. But then Bryan Kohberger goes on and he gets a college degree in criminology, sociology, and then he puts on the internet something that asks people about how to get away with killings and makes it look like his own work for his schooling. They even went and got stuff from his office. What'd they find from the office? We still don't know that. There's a lot of stuff in this case that absolutely makes no sense. And 9 minutes to kill 4 people with a knife and then get back in your car and take off and nobody's seen anything. But then they say that actually one of the survivors actually seen Bryan Kohberger walk by. She described the bushy eyelashes, but he had a black mask on. But that goes to show if he had black clothes on, that's the reason why no one's seen all the blood on him. But you know, when you brutally stab 4 people, there's got to be blood. So it was snowy. There was snow on the ground. And if there even wasn't, you can still see the blood of 4 people. I'm sure on his shoes or whatever it may be. But then they go on to say that they found a shoe print. And it's, guys, this is just theorizing, like I said, but this is actually what people have said. That the footprint was actually brought bodily fluids and not blood. The scene was so bad, guys, that we had blood leaking out of the foundation of the home. You mean to tell me Bryan Kohberger left absolutely no trace of blood where he walked or through the house, or when the survivor actually seen him, there wasn't no blood on him? Or was it because the black clothing actually shielded the look of the blood? See, these are all questions, and plus the survivor went back to bed because the phone call was not made until 11 o'clock that next day. There's a lot of speculations on everything about this case. So what is right and what is wrong? We all have titles to our own opinion. But he's not guilty until he's actually proven guilty. And that's the sad part. He goes on and he raps in his jail cell about all this stuff, about stabbing people. He goes on and actually tells the jail people, the guards, that he's going to actually slice them up if they come in there. So can all these words actually be used against him and what they actually found him doing? That, so speak, arrested him for, quote unquote, so speak? These are a lot of questions, guys. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
Let's watch what that looks like. The suspect enters through the back sliding door. He pauses at the stairs to look around to make sure no one's up. He then turns and goes upstairs. The first bedroom he stops at and opens the door, he sees no one there. He continues to the next bedroom. Here we know what happens. Downstairs, Dylan is sleeping. The noise from upstairs wakes her up. She thinks it's Kaylee playing with her dog. She gets up and goes to the door and looks out. She sees nothing there. The suspect then continues down the stairs about 3 minutes later. He then heads to Xana's room. Outside, there's a security camera picking up some whimpering, cries, and a thud at 4:17. We've learned that Xana was found on the floor, which might explain the thud. Dylan again hears something and looks outside her door. She sees the suspect. He walked right past her and leaves.
Well, what'd you think of that animation? That gives you a clearer idea of what the house layout looked like on King Road, as well as the perpetrator's movements within the house and the time frame required to commit this awful crime. Bryan Kohberger's car was first spotted in the area on somebody's surveillance camera at about 3:30 a.m. DoorDash arrived at about 4 a.m. Bryan's car was also seen again at about 4:04 a.m., and he entered the house moments later. Which leads us to the DoorDash delivery. What are the odds that a DoorDash driver shows up at 4 o'clock? As Bryan has already been circling the house since 3:30, and then Bryan's car is seen within minutes of the DoorDash driver leaving, and then he commits the crime minutes later. I don't believe Xana ordered DoorDash. A Jack-in-the-Box bag was found on the counter. For those of you that aren't familiar, that's a fast food restaurant located in Pullman, Washington, and it's located right next to Bryan's apartments. My theory is Bryan used a throwaway phone as well as a prepaid Visa or gift card to place an anonymous DoorDash delivery to the 1122 King Road house. I really don't see how it could be any sort of coincidence. There's a reason Bryan showed up to the house early. There's a reason his car was seen doing circles around the house. There's a reason his car was seen going back and forth in front of the house. And he drove behind the house, and behind the house there's this road that has a good view of the back of the house and the front of the house. Check out this image right here. This gives you a slight idea of what Bryan may have seen while he was parked up on this road behind King Road. Bryan views himself as a criminal mastermind. He had studied killers for years. He studied their ways. He thought this would be the perfect crime, and the DoorDash driver would be an easy fall guy to throw off the investigation. As I've told you in my previously released videos, this seems to be exactly how Bryan operated. I believe he was on Facebook, Reddit, and YouTube misdirecting the investigation. So it would make sense that before he committed this crime, he wanted to throw misdirection into the mix. In Bryan's eyes, the DoorDash driver would be the prime suspect. Because if a DoorDash driver shows up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then 4 people end up passed away forever, Seems like the DoorDash guy would be the prime suspect. It also seems highly unlikely that Bryan would get so lucky to randomly have a DoorDash driver show up as he's awaiting behind the house and he decides to enter the house moments later. Also, theorizing about the DoorDash delivery. The Jack-in-the-Box bag had Xana's name on it. That was found on the kitchen counter. If Xana had ordered food, it was because she was hungry, and if she was hungry, she would have brought that bag into her bedroom with Ethan, and she would have enjoyed her meal in her bedroom. However, the bag was found on the counter, along with the drink that came with the bag. So apparently Xana didn't know anything about that order. I think that was an anonymous early morning delivery that confused the occupants of the house, and that's when Dylan heard, "Somebody's here." In a state of confusion, the food was accepted, nobody knew who ordered it, and it was placed on the counter. And Xana went back to her bedroom with Ethan. Only minutes later is when Bryan entered the household. Bryan obviously entered this house knowing the occupants were awake. When we first heard about this...
So my only question is this. So there would be record of the girl putting an order in on her credit card, debit card, or whatever else it may be. And it's Jack in the Box is actually in Poland, Washington, which is where Bryan Kohberger lives at. If Bryan Kohberger was actually seen driving around this house, going up and down, going in front of the house by cameras and everything else, guys, and then the killings happen, why does he have any business being around any of this place? I'm sure the cops tried to tie in surroundings with Bryan Kohberger, whether he knew anybody, if he visited anybody. I'm sure there's been actually FBI going to doors and asking them questions. Because if that's the case, Bryan Kohberger wasn't even... What was his purpose of being around the vicinity of Moscow, Idaho students that was brutally murdered? So put that in perspective of him driving around this house, trying to scheme out what he's going to do. He's actually already been watching this. They actually said it was a Bundy-like style killing, which means of the college students, because Bundy done the same thing. So he's tied into all this stuff, all these speculations of him driving around, everything else. He's caught on camera. But 9-minute killing of 4 people brutally stabbing them. I just don't get that. I can't fathom that, guys. Anyways, guys, let me know what you want. Let me know what you think in the comments of that. 4 people brutally stabbed in 9 minutes. I just don't see that happening. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
This case, we were told everybody was attacked in their sleep, but that's just not the case here. On November 13th, Bryan was a predator, and these victims were his prey. I don't believe Xana placed that DoorDash order. Bryan placed the DoorDash order to confuse detectives and all of us online sleuths. He thought he was so smart. But he wasn't smart enough to not leave a sheath with his DNA on it, and he wasn't smart enough to not drive his own vehicle to the crime scene. Bryan wasn't as smart as he thought he was. Moving on, we're going to very briefly discuss Bryan Kohberger's sister. In 2011, she starred in a horror movie. Recently, a woman was seen at 1122 King Road, the crime scene. This woman appears to look exactly like Bryan Kohberger's sister. I don't know if it is one way or the other, but it's being discussed. Let's check out these side-by-side comparisons. As you can see here, we are looking at a known picture of Bryan Kohberger's sister, as well as somebody that was recently at the crime scene house. Is one of these women simply Bryan's attorney's assistant who happens to look exactly like his own sister? If so, I guess that would mean there's another doppelganger in this case. Everybody appears to look the same. I've previously told you about my own doppelganger story, and in return, many of you told me about your doppelganger stories. To me, this is just weird if everybody looks so similar. I don't understand it. It's confusing. And what is with that camcorder she was holding? That thing looks like it's from the 90s or early 2000s. I'm pretty sure any modern cell phone could do the job just as good, but what do I know? I'm just a YouTuber. I don't know. What do you think? Do you think that that's Bryan's sister at the crime scene? If so, this might be the first of its kind. How weird, how creepy. But maybe she's just trying to get her brother out of prison. I don't know. I've recently obtained some internet posts from Bryan from when he was 17 and 18 years old on a forum. Apparently, he suffers from something known as visual snow. I don't know if this is reality or just something in Bryan's mind. However, visual snow is apparently some type of visual impairment that looks something like this. This is what he had to say for himself online. I have just accepted my visual snow finally. I don't even feel the need to stay away from the form. It doesn't scare me anymore. Anyone else come to terms? I feel like coming to terms could be a bad thing, though. In a prior post, he says, I went crazy on Topamax. So he has a history of various pharmaceuticals. He's tried various diets. He's talked about how he feels nothing. He's talked about how great his dad is, but how mean he is to his dad. He's talked about how he feels like he's some type of character in a video game, and he just feels nothing. As a young man, he spiraled out of control on the internet. Some people have speculated that visual snow is why he didn't see Dylan. I disagree with that because visual snow didn't appear to stop him from finding the other 4 victims, waiting for the DoorDash driver, making his way to and from and all over Washington and Idaho and all the way back to Pennsylvania, as well as being a grade A student in all of his college classes. So even if he did have visual snow, it didn't seem to stop him from doing any of the things that he wanted to do in life. It didn't stop him from purchasing a knife, driving around at all hours of the night, putting 15,000 miles on his car in just under half a year. He seemed to be doing an awful lot of driving for somebody that's visually impaired and not getting into any accidents.
So if you have visual snow, can you have a driver's license, guys? Can you actually be driving if you have visual snow? Because if you say, if he can't see people or who people is with visual snow, that would be like living in a digital world in your mind. You know how you turn on old TVs and it was all snowy and he was like patting it and stuff? I was not that old, but you get what I'm saying. And you're like twisting your rabbit ears which way you want to go and stuff. Yeah, visual snow. I'm about to look that one up and read about it, guys. I'm actually interested in that. Can you imagine walking around just with visual snow in front of your eyes? If anyone actually has visual snow, let me know in the comments, guys. I'm interested in that. That stuff actually intrigues me. So Bryan Kohberger supposedly has visual snow. I don't think you could drive with visual snow, guys. I just don't. But who am I? I'm just a YouTuber. Anyways, guys, let's jump right back to the video.
So me personally, I'm not buying it. I think it might have been psychological with Bryan Kohberger. So that pretty much sums up what I wanted to say in this video. I just wanted to keep it short and sweet and present you as much information as possible in a short amount of time because your time is super valuable and I appreciate you. If you want to see longer videos on this case, check out my last 3 videos. And if you...
There you guys go. Drip drop, guys. Go subscribe to Crime Circus. He is a great YouTuber. I absolutely enjoy him, guys. The facts of what he talks about is 100% believable, guys, but he lets you know it's all speculations, guys. That's all we can do at this point is speculate on stuff, guys. But visual snow, what is it? I'm actually going to look into that and let you guys know. But first, love yourself, like yourself, be nothing but yourself. Like, subscribe, channel is highly appreciated. Go check out the channel. There's a lot more where that come from, guys. Anyways, your boy Deuces. I'm out. Thank you, Drip Drop, by the way.